Good morning, Ingress players. I'm Agent Choosing, and I'd like to do a little review today of a website that tells you a lot more information about the Ingress game and the Shard game particularly. The website is thrakazog.com, thrakazog.com, and if you go to that website and click on Magnus, that's the current Shard game that's active in this February of 2017. I'm going to talk a little bit about the website, these different links on the top, that you can go to and find out information about the shards. But let's talk about the 13 different characters in the Ingress game, or 13 different scoring mechanisms we have for this game. You'll notice that the Enlightened has 3 and the Resistance 0 at this present time. The 3 highlighted green characters, Nagasa, Schubert, and Lightman, have been scored for the Enlightened for this round. We have a total of 91 individual shards that need to be scored in order to capture or score each individual player. Each player or each character has 7 shards associated with it, and as you can see with Nagasa here, we the Enlightened have been scored 4 of the 7 shards, giving us that player is captured and scored. There are 5 additional players or characters that will be released in a couple of weeks. But the shards have not been released for those. We are now in week 3, and right now the present score is Enlightened has scored 19 shards, Resistance 5 shards, and we have 32 shards that have not been scored. Over on this side we see the Enlightened has 3, Resistance 0, 5 that are not scored, and 5 that have not been released yet and have unspawned. So basically, this is the basic information on the scoreboard. We show each individual player or character. We have 91 shards associated with those 13 characters. We have 3 specific characters that have been captured at this point. And let's talk just a minute about how we capture the shards. Shards are sent between portals, between level 7 or higher portals. And when a link is available between those portals during the scoring time frame, which we'll talk about later, then they are scored into a target. There are several targets, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well. Let's look at the stats for a second. These are the stats of all of the different shards. There is so much information here, I can't go over them. Here's what I just can tell you, the easiest thing for me to look for. In this section right here, this tells you how close the shard is to a specific goal. Enlightened scored this shard, so it's 0 distance because it's at that portal. This next one, the Enlightened goal is 206 kilometers away. For the Resistance, the goal is 1149, and I haven't figured out the closest kind of thing yet for that, so you guys can figure out some of these things. Here's what I use on this as well. The current location, if I want to find out what the location of this shard, I just click on this link. So when I click on that link, it's going to open up the Ingress Intel map, and it's going to tell me exactly where that portal is. This portal has several shards, 8, 22, 30, 31, 45, and 80 that are at it. And so that tells me where that shard, where the portal is located and what shards are at that portal. So that's kind of nice. You can find out the current location of any one number of the shards. So that link is for the stats. Let's go on to the moves link. Moves is kind of exciting because there have been 80 moves so far as of today, starting with February 10th of 2017 at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. The most recent move was February 27, 2017 at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That was move number 80. If you want to go back and look at some of the other moves, you can do that. Let's go with the current move and talk about that for a minute. During this last move, there were 8 jumps or moves by the Enlightened, 12 moves by the Resistance, and random moves of 0. Some moves will be random if the portals are not captured for one team or the other, or if there's no links. They can just jump wherever they want to within a reasonable distance. Let's look a little bit down further what this other information gives us. It tells us number 9, because it's green, was moved by the Enlightened 38 kilometers. This is the portal that it was moved to. So if I click on that portal, it again is going to open up the Ingress Intel map. It's going to show me where that portal is. And interesting that there's no shard there right now. Why doesn't it show me that shard? Oh, now I know why it didn't show me the shard. There was just a move just now at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I just refreshed my screen. We're now on move 81. So I'll move on to that. So number 9 moved 157 kilometers, and it moved to Rotunda. I'll click on that, and it'll show us where that is. Now we can see that that shard is present at Rotunda del Mapa. And I'm not sure, that sounds like... anyway, I'm not sure which country that's in. It'll tell us here, back in here. It's in Argentina. Argentina now has that shard located number 9 in it. And it's 41 kilometers further away from the Enlightened target and 35 kilometers closer to the Resistant target. And it tells us how far away it is from the Enlightened target, 249 kilometers. If I click on that, again, it's going to open up another frame in Ingress, and it's going to draw a link between the two. Isn't this awesome? Now you can see how far away it is, and it will even show you if there's any cross links that are there. Right now it doesn't show that there's any cross links, so maybe we're going to see a score soon if they can keep this portal open. So that's pretty awesome. Isn't that cool? This is great. I love Ingress. Let's look at about the Enlightened on that, or excuse me, on the Resistance on that same portal. Look how far away they are, and hey, they got some blocking links that will not allow them to score that right away. So once again, if you go here and click on the links here, it's going to draw a map of the on Ingress Intel with a link between the two. Oh, great information. Same thing will happen with each of these individual shards. You can go down and look at them. Just as a side note, one of the shards I've been following from early on is number 84. It's been stuck in the West Bank, between Israel and the West Bank, in a border, near a border crossing. There's a border crossing right in this area. I'm going to click on that. There's a border crossing in here. This is known to be one of, or arguably one of the most treacherous border crossings in the world, and so there's lots of traffic here, people trying to cross from the West Bank here into Israel each day. And so some of the Enlightened players were asking, hey, why don't you guys go over and get that shard? They said, well, we want to live. And so this shard is just bouncing between these portals the entire so far for the entire game, and I'm not sure that it's going to move out of that area. Anyway, just a little side note there. Let's go back to the top of the screen. That was on our history. No, that was on our moves. So as I mentioned, it's going to also tell you how long ago the moves occurred, 0.1 hours ago. If I refresh my screen, which you need to do on a regular basis when you're on that one, 0.2 hours ago. So it's going to tell you, as I mentioned previously, there is a time frame every 5 hours, and you can track that in your Ingress game. One more little interesting note. No shard scored. We get a little frowny face. Let's now move on to the history. This one we can look at each individual shard. So let's just pick one. Shard number 72 started in Australia on the 24th of February. And it's made this many moves, 2 by Enlightened. Then it was stole by Resistance. And it is currently also in Australia. The furthest move, boy, it hasn't moved very far. So that tells you where that shard is. If we look at another one, 45 spawned and has moved. There's an example of a move that just jumps on its own. There wasn't someone that moved it. There wasn't a faction that moved the shard. But it is currently down here. Let's see, where did it start? It started in again in Australia. And it's moved 23, 50, 300 kilometers. There's a 1,300 kilometer move, 2,100 kilometer move, 2,200 kilometer move. Hey, I'm going to have to look at this one on the next screen in just a minute. And that's going to show us a little bit more about that shard. So let's go to the next screen. Again, that's the history screen that we're on right now. And you can look at each individual shard and find out where it started, where it's at, and where it's stopped off. We're going to go to maps now. 45 was the number of the shard that we were looking at. So I'm going to go over here and see if I can pull up on the far right side, shard number 45. This one you'll be able to watch where the shard went. Make sure the animated on the far left is ticked, and you'll have the labels. Press play, and it's going to show us a little bit about where the shard started. Each move will last about a minute. It's a green line, so that was moved by the Enlightened, stolen over to the Resistance and moved. Then the Enlightened took it back again and moved it south. Each individual moved. Here's the Enlightened keeps on moving it. And the screen will show us all of those moves. If you want to zoom out a little bit, you can zoom out. But let's see if we can find out a little bit more about where it is. There's jump 7, jump 8. There's 13 stops in this one altogether. So it went up to New Guinea. And we're on move 11, move 12. Wow, look at how far it went across from Australia, north to south. Now it looks like it's on the west coast of Australia. Let's pull our screen out here a little bit better to get an idea of how far this thing's traveled. Okay, so it was on the northeast coast of Australia, bounced around a little bit there, was moved by Resistance and Enlightened. Enlightened moved it to New Guinea, over to northern Australia, and then back down to Perth, Australia. And it's been there for 246 hours. Wow. That seems to be like a lot. Let's click on that and see where that takes us. That should take us to that portal. And we'll just wait for that to come up. Still taking a second to load. Must not have a very good internet connection today. I'm not sure why that's taking so long. There it goes. Not sure where that is located. I don't see the portal on the screen. 150-year reenactment. That's what we're looking for. Well, let's take a look back on history for number 45. Let's see where it takes us when we click on this one for the portal link. I'm pretty much done with the overview of the website. Here it is coming up. It does not say there's a shard located. So again, maybe I've not refreshed my screen or something else. That's kind of crazy. That shard's got to be around here somewhere. Why it's not showing up is a question. Number 42. Let's look at that again. 42 is not on here. I thought it was 42. Anyway, I'll let you guys go now. Just a review of the site again. Here's our scoreboard. Here's the number of shards that have been scored. Here's our score, 3-0 Enlightened to Resistance, 19 scored for the Enlightened, 5 for the Resistance. There's 32 still on the board. Check out the stats for each of the shards. All the moves, 81 moves so far to date. See what each one is specifically, each specific shard where it's been, and you can check the maps and press play. Oh, one other thing real quick I want to show you. This is also another fun thing. You go pick and say the last 4 moves. You can look at all of the moves over the last 4 moves. It's going to show you all the enlightened and resistant portals. I didn't talk too much about the targets. Just forgot about that. The targets will move every 2 weeks. At 1 week, then the target's flipped. If it was an enlightened portal for the target for the first week, it will then shift to a resistance target for the second week. Then after the second week, all those targets go away. The shards that have been captured by enlightened and resistance will stay with the target portals. Anyway, my screen's not big enough to show this as good, but you can see the last couple moves. Now you notice this arrow, this guy's bouncing back and forth. He's gone one way, then he went back the other way. From Japan to a little island, I'm not sure where that is, out in the middle of the ocean. Anyway, this is Choosing, Agent Choosing. It's been nice talking to you today. Remember, Ingress is awesome, and shards are not boring. I'm out.